Caitlin Clark and head coach Christy Sides just pulled off the unimaginable. The Indiana Fever are back in the playoffs for the first time since 2016, marking the end of a long drought. Despite a heart-wrenching 92-91 loss to the Washington Mystics in their regular season finale, the Fever wrapped up the season with a .500 record. Throughout the game, Indiana leaned heavily on their bench, showing depth and resilience. Had they secured the win, it would have been their first winning season since 2015. Regardless, the Fever's return to playoff contention has electrified fans and reignited hope for the franchise. Let's jump into Indiana Fever's journey from regular season to playoff contenders. Caitlin Clark has undeniably been the driving force behind skyrocketing attendance, soaring ticket sales, and the renewed spotlight on the WNBA this season. Her elite-level basketball has captivated fans and made her a must-watch player. However, while Clark's brilliance on the court is undeniable, it won't be just her single-handedly carrying the Indiana Fever to the playoffs. It will take a complete team effort, with contributions from her teammates and coaching staff, to push the Fever into postseason contention. Clark may be the star, but the Fever's journey to the playoffs will be a collective battle. Caitlin Clark is surrounded by two incredible talents on the court. Aliyah Boston, the number, first overall pick in the 2023 WNBA draft, and Kelsey Mitchell, the number 2 pick in 2018, have been instrumental in shaping the Indiana Fever's roster. It's clear that the team has been steadily building for success over the past few years, and Clark seems to be the final piece of the puzzle. With her addition, the Fever now have the star power and chemistry needed to make a serious push for the playoffs this season. Kelsey Mitchell has been a scoring machine for the Indiana Fever since being drafted in 2018. She's led the team in scoring for the past 5 seasons, establishing herself as a consistent offensive force. This season, Mitchell is averaging 17.7 points per game, just a fraction behind Caitlin Clark's 17.8, showcasing her reliability as one of the Fever's primary scoring threats. On the other end of the court, Aliyah Boston is a name that sends a chill through opposing teams. Standing at 6 feet 5 inches and weighing 220 pounds, Boston dominates the paint with her rebounding, scoring, and ability to create second chances for her team. She's averaging 13.9 points, 9.2 rebounds, and 2.8 assists per game, making her a powerhouse on both ends of the floor. Together, Mitchell and Boston form a lethal duo that complements Clark, creating a dynamic trio that could propel the Fever to playoff success. Look what Christy Sides said about their journey.
I'm most proud of the resiliency that our players showed. Starting 1-8, and then to have clinched a playoff spot with 7 games remaining. If you'd have told me that was going to happen, I would have never believed you. So just really proud of their growth, their resiliency. They went to work. They got better. We didn't have the time early, but they just kept getting better as the season progressed. And then we had the All-Star break and had some great opportunity to really be able to focus on some things. But I can't talk enough about what these guys have gone through this season, and the resiliency they've shown. They deserve this opportunity to play in these playoffs, and just really proud of them for that.
What are you expecting to see from the presumptive Rookie of the Year here?
I think we'll see her rise to the moment like she usually does. One of the things that helps her is she has seen every kind of defense you could possibly see throughout the course of this season. A lot of times you go into a playoff series and you say, hey, this team's going to be able to be more lasered in. They're going to be matchup oriented. They're going to have time to prepare, and that's going to provide problems. And it's definitely going to provide challenges for Caitlin and for Indiana, because it is different than when you're in the sloth of the regular season and a team's playing 4 games in 6 days, whatever it might be. However, she so benefits, and her team benefits, from the fact that they got that defensive attention all season long. She knows how to handle it. And I think you're going to see something much different than what we saw when Caitlin started her career in Connecticut at the beginning of this regular season. Now, having said that, even though I think it's easy to say at this point she's already the best guard in the league, she and Indiana are going up against a Connecticut team that has unbelievable playoff experience and playoff success. And it's hard to not see some of those tight moments and think about the way Indiana snipes at the refs, looks a little flustered, can look a little inexperienced, and not think that in tight games that could be an area that Connecticut could take advantage of. They play every team tough in the playoffs. It doesn't matter who, whether it's Vegas, the Liberty, Connecticut always plays you tough. I think you have to give them a little edge in the series because of that and the experience, but I think Caitlin plays well, and so does Indiana.
Speaking of playoffs, the Connecticut Sun about to embark on another postseason journey. They'll be a 3 seed with an opening matchup that mirrors the very first game of the season. A battle with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever right here in Connecticut.
Becky Hammond had it right. Like, you can't outscore that team, right? You got to be able to lock down defensively. You've got to be able to give them different looks because they're smart players, and when they get a beat, they're going to pick you apart. So we got to be able to give them different looks. We got to be locked in, and we got to be consistent for 40 minutes. You know, Christy's done an outstanding job with that group, and they've continued to stay the course. And it's a lot of credit to their maturation and her leadership.
This team is really coming into the playoffs on a high note. They have played well, specifically since the Olympic break, and they have given a lot of contender teams a run for their money, including this Connecticut Sun team. Now, the Sun did win the series 3-1. However, 3 of those matchups did take place before the Olympic break, when Indiana was still trying to figure itself out. The good thing, though, for Connecticut is that, 1, this is a home matchup. Number 2, they are also coming into the playoffs on a high note, winning their final regular season game against Chicago, and they're very familiar with how this Indiana team works. So it should be an interesting matchup. I honestly think this 3-6 matchup is probably going to be the most interesting of all of them. But Caitlin Clark has a test ahead of her. She'll more than likely once again be guarded by Dejanay Carrington, who did a really good job on her the first 2 times they met. So this should be an interesting matchup for sure.
The WNBA playoffs are set to tip off on Sunday, September 22nd, with the excitement building as teams prepare for an intense battle to claim the championship. The first round will be played in a best-of-3 series, meaning each matchup will have at least 2 games guaranteed, with a potential 3rd game if the series is tied after 2. This format brings an added layer of tension, as teams must secure victories quickly to avoid a decisive Game 3. In this round, the Connecticut Sun, the higher-seeded team, hold a significant advantage. They will host the first 2 games at the Mohegan Sun Arena, where their home court energy and fan support could play a pivotal role. If necessary, a Game 3 will shift the action to Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, Indiana, adding an extra challenge for both teams, as the Fever would be fighting for survival in front of their home crowd. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we'll be covering all the games throughout the WNBA playoffs. You won't want to miss a moment of the action, especially when we dive into the highly anticipated matchup between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun. Stay tuned for in-depth analysis, highlights, and all the latest updates.